the biochemistry is complex. And the minute, I have a PhD in nutritional biochemistry, and I see those pathways, and I start to get a little intimidated. And I can imagine the local clinician who's going to see a pathway. I mean, you guys spent, I know Dr. Suran has spent from 1980 to now sorting out these pathways. And reading his little bio, I was amazed in reading, and that it started in 80 and then lipoxins, and it's kind of stepwise up. And it took years to develop these pathways and see how they're actually made. And I think that's going to intimidate a lot of people. So I think what I'd like to take home the message from this is that there's a new phase, a new activity we've learned about that are derivatives of our own endogenous fish oils in our circulation that are making changes. I don't think we should bother them with the biochemistry of it.
I try and talk to people about the biochemistry of DHA and EPA and thromboxanes and leukotrienes.
18 carbon fish oil.
Right. They check
and
out.
I think the general public is still under the belief that if the omega-3 is an omega-3. If it came from a plant, it's the same as coming from a fish or coming, and there's a huge difference as we are now beginning to understand that the active forms of the EPA, DHA, 20 and 22 carbon fats, a little bit can be converted from omega-3. 18 carbon omega-3, but 5 to 8% in the human, roughly. So really, it's insignificant. So really, we're talking about the precursors DHA and EPA, EPA 20 carbon DHA.
And these SPMs are the active ingredient of those compounds.
Well, they have other functions, though, right? I mean, the fish oils have other functions: cell membrane, lipid rafts, membrane fluidity, and transport across the membrane, which are not affected by these. No. These are a little different. This is over and above their effect on membrane physiology and lipid rafts and receptor binding.
That's the part that I'm struggling with.
Right.
As I spent a lot of time studying the biochemistry of EPA and DHA.
Right.
So is prostaglandin production, leukotriene, thromboxane production going to be affected by these agents? Does chemotaxis of neutrophils, all the things I attribute to EPA and DHA, can I automatically assume the SPMs are going to do that same thing and to a better extent?
So the key bioassays that were utilized for the identification, the structure elucidation of these novel molecules were actually limiting leukocyte recruitment to the site of inflammation, counter-regulation of pro-inflammatory mediator production, and macrophage clearance of apoptotic cells. So by definition, any one of these mediators does that, because that was how they were identified. As you said, the EPA and DHA membrane and physiological biology is a completely separate side, and that's been well characterized over the years in terms of the retina, in terms of vision, in terms of the brain, and that's completely separate.
Myelinization, all those things.
Right. So I think what's important at the general public level is not just that these mediators do this, is that these mediators do it at a better level than what we currently use, than aspirin, than everything else that's in the market nowadays, that we use on a daily basis without at least any of the known side effects, because they are produced by our body. It's not something that was synthetically made, it's something that was produced by our body.
If we're given the SPMs, why would we give fish oil if this is the downstream metabolic product of all that?
In terms of a therapeutic target, is that you target the disease, you target what's happening acutely using an agonist, using a therapeutic, using a resolving. And that immediately has biological actions. You're not relying on the host, on the body to make these mediators from. But eventually, once the disease starts to resolve, you want to be able to maintain a tone that prevents you from falling back into the disease. And this is where using the supplementation can be important, because then you're increasing your endogenous levels of these mediators, and it creates a sort of a protective barrier that your body can withstand inflammation better, you can withstand the challenge better, so that at the next round you won't go into chronicity or into an overt acute inflammatory response. It'll just resolve by itself without. As most of the inflammation that happens in our body on a daily basis does, we never really notice it until it becomes really overt. And that's what we really would like to do, that once you manage the disease, then you prevent it by keeping the levels of these mediators endogenously high.
So then you would supplement, you would say we should have taking both the fish oil, EPA, DHA, with the SPMs incorporated.
Right.
SPMs attacking the local regional disease, fish oils for downstream, and
Right.
all the other beneficial
Right.
effects in membrane
Right.
transport,
Right.
myelinization, everything.